If you've taken care of chickens, then you know how frustrating it is to keep their water clean, to keep their water filled, and to keep their water from not being frozen, especially if you live in a climate that's a little bit colder. If you've experienced any of those issues, then this chicken water is for you. So this could be one of the greatest chicken inventions ever. So here it is behind me, guys. This is a version of what Justin Rhodes introduced on his channel as the Everflow chicken water, I think is what he calls it. But this is a variant of what he built that I modified for my situation, and this thing is working amazing. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple process. And I'll show you each element, how I put it together, and how the whole thing works. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the setup. Basically, in my case, for my application, you know, I have a pond. It's right outside of the back side of this greenhouse. And so I'm pulling pond water in from a little pond pump that I got at the store for about 20 bucks or whatever it was. And it's coming through this polyethylene line, pumping right into here through this inlet, and then coming into the pipe that's cut open, exposed. You can see it coming in through there. It's just a slow trickle, comes down here, comes into the outlet. It's a bigger orifice, in this case a 1/2 inch hose, and then it comes down, flows back around, and then falls back into my pond over here. So a number of things that this does. One, it doesn't waste water. All of this water comes in, the chickens drink it as they need it, and then it flows right back into the pond. And so it's just a cyclical process that doesn't lose. The only water lost is the water that they're drinking, which is awesome. The other thing it does, the debris and all of the stuff that gets pushed through or dropped from the chickens' mouths or their feet or their poop or whatever it is, drops to the bottom of the pipe and doesn't get caught and clogged in the orifices of the exit or the entry. The last thing it does, which I think is probably one of the coolest features of this Everflow water, is it doesn't freeze. So I'll show you outside what I'm going to do when I fully install this chicken water. But that's one of the benefits, is you get this constant trickle flow, so the likelihood of the water freezing is way less, without requiring a heat mat or a base of heating element of some sort to heat up the water so that it doesn't freeze. So as an overview on all of what this is, basically I took this is a 3-inch pipe, and I cut it back, and then I cut it on each side here, kind of angled it back and around, cut the whole top off so the chickens can get their heads in and drink out of it, right? And then I got these reducers. This is a 3-inch to 1.5 inch reducer, and then I got these 1.5 inch caps to go inside of the reducer. And then all I did was take a male in to a hose that then goes to a thread on this side, heated it up, melted it a little bit, and then threaded it in. You can tap those and do it really nicely, but you know, this is a chicken water, I wasn't too worried about it. And then obviously converts to a male hose inlet on this side, and then you just screw your hose in over here. Eventually what I'm going to do is come back and use a little bit more rigid exit hose here, because this is going to get buried, and when you bury a hose like this and you smash it over time, it just ends up getting totally smashed. So I'll either bury PVC, or it'll be a little bit more rigid, kind of like malleable PVC. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I wanted to prove that this concept was going to work. The fall I have here is, I don't know, what is that? Probably about 2.5 feet. So I got 2.5 feet of fall. and that's plenty of fall for it to go out, and I'll show you again the pond on this side and exit on the pond side over here. But I had these stairs laying around too, and so I took these stairs. You can do anything here. You could do a ramp, but in my case I used some stairs that I had laying around, and the chickens just walk up here. They get their water, because obviously I need to raise this thing up for the fall to go back down into the pond, and they drink and then they come on back down. On this side, on the entry side, obviously this polyethylene pipe is hooked up to the pump in the pond, and that's just a little, like I said, a $20 pond pump, and that's coming in, and then it goes, the same concept, it goes through this cap, and this is threaded on this side. I think it's a 3/8 thread on this side, and then it's a 1/4 inch barb on this side, and all you do is shove this polyethylene line onto that barb, and that thing's not coming off. Trust me, it's hard to get on and off of there. You don't need to clamp this down. You don't need to do anything to it. It doesn't leak, and it's not going to fall off. I've already tried to get one of these off, and it's really hard. So that's the concept there. All I did here was take some pipe strap and then use the pipe strap to go around the reducer here, and then likewise on this side put it on the reducer down here, and then I made sure this end was just a teeny bit lower so that I could get some flow going down this way, enough flow to make sure that it's going to go decently quick to go down and then back into the pond. So let's go out back to the pond side, and I'm going to show you the other part of this project that I'm going to tackle. So this polyethylene line where the water gets pumped through, I'm going to dig about a 12-inch ditch and bury both the polyethylene line and the exit hose, whatever that's going to consist of. Like I said, probably PVC or something. I'm going to bury them 12 inches into the ground and then all the way back to the pond, so you don't, well, one, you don't see them, and two, in the winter when it gets really cold, these things are buried and they have a level of insulation so they don't freeze. You know, in my case, this is a pretty small inlet hose, so I have a more likelihood of this thing freezing. That's why I want to get it underneath the ground. So that's pretty important. I could, if I wanted to, add some, you know, heat tape or something to this to ensure that it doesn't freeze, but to me that's just a little overkill. I think if I get it 12 inches of insulation underneath the soil, it'll be perfectly fine. So that's something I'm going to handle. I'm just going to trench out a 12-inch ditch all the way to here, put both these things in the ground, and that to me will be sufficient for keeping this thing from freezing. Okay, so in my case, obviously I have a pond, right? I got this big pond back here, and I'm pumping this water out, and it's going to the chicken water over there. But I actually thought about this a little bit further. And even if you don't have a pond, even if you don't have a creek or whatever it is, some sort of water source, you could always take like a 55-gallon drum, fill it up with water, and pump that 55-gallon drum water in the same exact fashion that I have here through the pipe, and then drain it back into the drum, and that would ensure that you get a flow, and also that you don't waste a ton of water, and that your water stays clean. So you're still getting benefit. It's not the same benefit of being able to pump from a water source that's already here and never have to worry about refilling a 55-gallon drum. But at the end of the day, a 55-gallon drum full of water is going to take a long time to empty out when you're dealing with chickens and livestock. So anyway, this is the pond pump side. I have this kind of all still set up the way that I did it very quickly, but this is the pump. It's just sitting down there in the water, as you can tell. I'll have to get this a little bit deeper so that when the pond freezes this winter, I keep it away from the frozen bits of ice that are going to form on the top. This is all still going to run even when the pond is frozen. All of this is going to freeze over, but it's going to be down deeper, so it'll be perfectly fine. So that's the entry. Obviously this is plugged up, and obviously I have electricity back here because of my pond aerator, so that's something, you know, unique in my case. So the pond pump is plugged up. You could get a solar version of this pond pump and it would do the exact same thing. So that's out there. And then here's the exit. So this is the hose that was hooked up inside, and as you can see, it's flowing back to the pond absolutely beautifully. I was so surprised that that's all the fall that I needed to get back to this pond, because let me get the camera real low and you can see the level of the land and how it's very basically the water in the greenhouse is the same height as where I'm standing now at the pond. So this is kind of, you know, the camera sitting on the ground and the chicken water is right there. So it's just amazing to me that that 2 foot of fall is all I needed to get back here. And actually there's a formula for fall. You can look up online for how much fall you need and distance and all that stuff. I didn't do a formula. I just set it up and lowered it as I could to the point where I got low enough to where I felt like was sufficient for the chickens to get up there, but also enough fall to get back to the pond here. So that's it, guys. I couldn't be happier with how this chicken water worked out for us. I'll kind of give an update later on when we get into the height of winter. And is this thing gonna freeze? We'll see. Is it gonna run continually? We'll see. Is it gonna, you know, is the filter gonna get clogged? We'll see. There's a lot of ifs out there, but as of right now, I've been running it for about 5 days straight, and man, this thing has been pumping beautifully, working awesome. So I'll keep y'all updated on progress, but I am beyond excited about not having to fill up water every single morning. Excited about coming out here in the winter and this thing not being frozen. Excited about the chickens having clean water all the time. There's just so many bonuses and benefits from this thing. So if you take care of chickens, man, consider this. If you have a pond, consider this. If you have a creek that runs year round, consider this. And also consider it if you don't have those things. Grab a 55-gallon barrel and use that and pump it and keep that water flow going so you keep it nice and clean and keep it from freezing, and get to use the benefits of this even if you don't have a water source like we do here. Anyway, I'll leave links in the description below for all of the tools and products that I used here in this video to make this chicken water. But guys, do this. If you take care of chickens, trust me, you're not gonna regret making your own Everflow chicken water. I'll see y'all in the next video.